I'm very happy to welcome Anne Skaret and Harr from Norway.
Thank you. So happy to be here. First, just a brief comment on the use of terminology in this paper and the conference theme, fiction and reality. We understand the notion of fiction in view of its Latin origin, meaning to shape, form, or devise. Thus, we extend the concept beyond narrative literature so that it includes all literary genres as well as arts in general. Furthermore, in regard to reality, we delimit the term to human life and its conditions. In doing so, we can direct our attention towards the interplay between art and human life in the Swedish-Norwegian artist Van Ekman's Picturebooks, which is the topic of this paper. And this works as well. Van Ekman has created over 30 picture books on her own and even more in cooperation with others in a long and still ongoing career, stretching over 50 years, from her debut in 1969 to the latest book in 2019. From the beginning, Ekman's picture books have been characterized as unusual and innovative, both thematically and aesthetically, thus turning upside down conceptualizations of what a picture book should or could be. The visual expression is highly artistic and marked by her long career as a visual artist. Ekman is well known for using and developing different styles and techniques, showing a remarkable ability to continuous renewal. It could also be mentioned that several pictures in her books have been part of Ekman's art exhibitions. However, as Ekman's picture books have been met with admiration, celebration, and numerous awards, they have also been characterized as too artistic, as eccentric, strange, and challenging to get a hold on, and furthermore, not always for children. Accordingly, they have not reached widespread popularity. One distinct feature of Ekman's picture books is the plenitude of visual references to world art, as we also saw in the previous paper, which has been pointed out and discussed by picture books researchers such as Sandra Beckett and Ulla Redin. According to Beckett, visual allusions to art and picture books have received little attention. However, they are frequent and they constitute a meta-discourse on art in the picture book, Beckett claims. In continuation with this, we find that the many art references in Ekman's picture books highlight questions about art and art experience. They make us aware of other ways that art is present in Ekman's books, both on a thematic level as well as on the level of reading. At the same time, and just as poignant, is the often disturbing and sometimes unpleasant presence of existential difficulties in the literary characters' lives. This simultaneous presence of art and life thematic is hinted at here in this double spread from one of Ekman's books, Diary Missing. We see a rather stiff sculpture on the left in the picture. She is looking for her lost diary. This evening, she finds herself in a smoky facility with an atmosphere dense with erotic and hidden aggression. Our investigation takes this ambiguity as its starting point, and we ask the following questions. What characterizes the connection between life and art in Ekman's picture books? How does art influence life? And the other way, how does life influence art? Okay. We will explore three of Ekman's picture books from 3 decades in her early in her career. What to Do with Little Jill, Hva skal vi gjøre med Lille Jill, from 1976. Sonata for a Violin from 1989, Sonata for en fiolin, and Diary Missing, Dagbok forsvunnet, from 1995. In different ways, they offer the reader a variety of meetings with art, through the visual allusions to known artworks, and through art motifs such as sculpture, paintings, and music. And additionally, we also consider the books to be art expressions in themselves.
A common trait in the 3 picture books is that art and the protagonist's life stories are intertwined. We will soon deep deeper into What to Do with Little Jill and Sonata for a Violin, but let us for now illustrate this point through Diary Missing. In this book, the main protagonist is not a human being, but a work of art, in the shape of a public sculpture. The sculpture stands on a plinth in a town square, so people pass by her indifferently. Still, she finds meaning in life by keeping her diary, where she records her private experiences. But introducing the diary, a human object, Ekman creates an ambiguity in the sculpture. When the diary disappears, she can no longer endure her isolation. She steps down from the plinth and starts searching for it. As she moves, she becomes more and more flexible. She interacts with humans and gathers experiences. But even if she develops her human capacities, she remains a sculpture and a piece of art. In this way, the sculpture clarifies the challenge readers are faced with when meeting art motifs in Ekman's picture books. Art enters the human and existential domain without losing its distinct otherness. The enigmatic and untranslatable aspect of art is preserved. And these terms, translation, the untranslatable, and the enigma, we transpose from the field of psychoanalytic theory and over to Frank Ekman's Picturebooks, and we are highly aware of the danger of reductiveness that might arise thereby. But we do find it relevant to draw insights from recent psychoanalytic theory, especially as it's developed by Donald Winnicott and Jean Lafranche. Although there are significant differences between Winnicott and Lafranche, they have in common that they replaced the intrapsychic orientation in Freud with an interpsychic model in which reciprocity and dependence are central components, and which highlights the importance of the other in establishing human subjectivity. Winnicott's and Lafranche's psychoanalytic theories thus open a window to investigate the individual's rootedness in other humans as well as in its physical environment, of which art is a part.
So how does the reader meet the domains of art and life, and how are these domains intertwined in the two other picture books? Let's go to what to do about little Jill. The book is about a little girl who is faced with having to create meaning and coherence on her own. The book has been read as a picture book about parental neglect. In such a reading, little Jill escapes her isolated existence at home by turning towards art, where she continues her life. Such an interpretation is founded on the portrayal of Jill's distant parents, that we can see on the first double spread in the little door opening there. When they from a distance see Jill sitting passive and turned away in the big armchair all day, they wonder what to do with her, and they decided to give her a picture. The father concludes, so now we have done what we can. Left alone again, it turns out that little Jill is attracted by the picture. Displaying a girl sitting on a bench, Jill starts talking to the girl, who expresses her desire for a horse, and Jill sets out to find one. She heads down to town and ends up in an art museum after closing time. Faced with all the art objects, Jill wants to play with the art, and so she continues her interaction with art and the art museum. And in this museum sequence, the pictures display many visual allusions to famous artworks. Ulla Redin, taking an intermediate and artistic approach to picture books, points out how the alluded artworks in Tom Ekman's picture books are recognizable and real. However, she also paraphrases them in a playful manner, Redin claims, and furthermore, Ekman endows the artworks with dramaturgical functions, giving the figures in the artworks life and voice, making them able to talk and interact with the protagonists. This example is from Edvard Munch's painting, The Day After. Jill, who has lost her clothes, when posing with the sculpture, asks the lady in the picture for a blanket, and she enters into the picture. And in the end, she do find a horse in the equestrian statue Gattamelata by Donatello. The equestrian asks Jill to set him free from his long and boring existence on the horseback, and Jill can ride the enlivened horse back home. The story ends with Jill giving the horse to the girl in the picture, in which Jill also enters, and they ride away together. So, does Jill hereby escape neglect and disconnectedness in her real life in favor of a life in art? We find that such an interpretation is contradicted by the lively and explorative interplays that Jill has with art. Furthermore, it implies that art and reality are contrary components. But isn't art also real? Is it possible to only live in art And is it so that art is unnecessary if life is satisfactory and good enough otherwise? We find that Winnicott's perspectives on child development do shed light on the meaning of art in this book. His texts are well known for emphasizing attachment and for the importance he places in the total adaptation towards the small child by the primary caregivers. However, and just as importantly, Winnicott equally stresses the importance of the child developing the capacity to be alone. And for this to happen, as the child grows older, the primary caregiver must gradually fail to adapt to the child. Vital for the child's way towards selfhood is that it learns to accept that the world is full of objectively existing things separate from itself, things which the child nonetheless can feel connected to and invest subjective meaning in. What Winnicott calls the child's transitional object, typically a teddy or a soft cloth, with the capacity of soothing the child and as the parents are absent, already carries this complexity. Later, Winnicott claims art takes part in this same complexity. Art is both an external object and a phenomenon which opens up a dimension of both collective and subjective meaning. Thus, for Winnicott, experiencing art and participating in the cultural field is connected both to the child's ability to orient itself towards reality, as well as to the child's trust that its own subjectivity has validity. One might claim that little Jill's parents don't give much, but they do give her art. And furthermore, they allow her to explore art alone. Based on her senseless meeting with the artworks, Jill interacts with them alone and independently, thereby making the artworks come to life. Even if works of art can be separated and objectified, placed in an art museum, they are nevertheless accessible to the perceiving and experiencing individual.
In Sonata for a Violin, a young music teacher finds himself unable to endure the throng and unrest around him. All the world's noises occupy and haunt him, even in his sleep. Nerve-broken and in a state of melancholia, he seeks refuge in a sanatorium, where all the guests either, quote, felt pain somewhere or were worried, unquote. During a walk in the woods, he meets a little girl who's carrying a violin. She plays a simple sonata for him, and everything changes. He feels the air against his face, he sees the butterflies flying, and suddenly he's capable of being there, in the world without feeling wiped out. In accordance with Little Jill and the concept of art and creative living that we find in Winnicott's theory, the experience of the art of music enables the music teacher to orient himself towards the reality he's a part of, to connect with life without getting lost in its turmoil. The music opens his life up for new dimensions, not least towards the erotic. Here we see him approaching his coming wife, with whom he later builds a family. However, they celebrate the wedding by going on a fox hunt in an English manner, implying that love is connected with a certain brutality. In spite of a dynamic family life, the threat of disintegrating and falling back into a melancholic state lurks in the background. This ambiguity in the music teacher's life is also represented in the interplay between words and pictures. As we see in this double spread, quote, sometimes the music teacher felt lonely when resting after dinner, unquote. Applying Picturebook researchers Maria Nikolaeva and Carol Scott's terminology, we might say that there is a counterpoint between the atmosphere in the verbal text and picture. In the picture, the music teacher seems paralyzed and ridden by anxiety and almost wiped out. The unruly and chaotic background underline this. The exchanges and interactions between words and pictures, between fullness and deprivation in life, between meaning and loss of meaning, as well as the suggestive eroticism and hint of brutality in the book, make us want to activate Jean Laplanche's concept of translation and the enigmatic interactions between the adult and the child. The enigmatic corresponds to the dimensions in life that we sense, but that we do not quite have a language for. These dimensions are nevertheless expressed as unintended messages by the adult in dealing with the child. The child then tries to translate these enigmatic messages into explicit meaning. Remnants of the enigmatic remain, though, and are carried through life, giving off bits of meaning along the way, without disappearing fully. The music teacher experiences art in a way that bears resemblance with the enigmatic. Towards the end of his life, when melancholia again threatens, he is once again saved by the little violin girl. She plays the sonata for him, and this time the music opens the portal to death for him. In an enigmatic way, music seems connected both to life and death, meaning and loss of meaning in the story of the book. The enigmatic is also present in the reader's encounter with the book's double spreads, in the dangerous and erotic that is implied but never spelled out, as well as in the contracultural interplay between words and images. To sum up, we set out to investigate the connection between art and life in Ekman's picture books. What have we found so far? First and foremost, we find that the relation between art and life is characterized by a striking ambiguity. On the one side, art and life interact and affect each other and are thus intertwined. However, they do not merge and dissolve into each other, and consequently they are simultaneously separated. Let us return to Diary Missing to see how this ambiguity manifests itself towards the end of the book. The sculptor's search for her diary takes her out on a fantastic journey to strange places, where she encounters a whole range of figures, ranging from skeletons, mermaids, wild animals, Sandra Botticelli's Venus, and Mary and baby Jesus. Late in the evening, the sculptor goes to the police station and finds the diary at the office of the chief constable, who is working overtime. A romance is suggested as the chief constable asks the sculptor to dance polka, which he loves. He also admits that he has read in the diary that the sculptor wishes she could dance. Then they dance polka together, which works out fine. But a tango, which requires close bodily connection and suggests more passion between the dancers, turns out to be more difficult. The chief constable has the last line in the book and concludes, quote, "Thank you for the dance," the chief constable said at the end. "As a sculptor, you dance excellent," unquote. During her journey, the sculptor has softened up and become more flexible and lively, thus emphasizing that art needs human interaction to come to life. However, the sculptor does not transform into a human. She's still a sculpture, and thus a piece of art. So even if art can be transferred to us as a message that we partly can understand, it can never fully be translated and dissolved into life. We find a similar ambiguity on the level of reading. When turning the pages in Ekman's picture books, the reader encounters art on several levels, through visual references to world art, and through art as it is involved in the literary characters' life dramas, but also through the meetings with Ekman's picture books as art objects in themselves. Thinking along Winnicott's lines, Ekman's picture books can be viewed as art objects in the world, available for the child to both find and attribute meaning to. Furthermore, as Laplanche's notion of the enigmatic reminds us, art as a message can never be fully translated. So, when meeting Ekman's artistic picture books, the reader is faced with enigmas, which work to emphasize that art is always characterized by a certain otherness. Ekman's picture books shows us that art is playful, tactile, and interactive, but her picture books also insist on the enigmatic as an element that in themselves and in human experience. Thank you.